Hi, everybody. This is Saad. I'll give you a moment to wipe the drool off the sides of your mouth, given this glorious skin tone. Just returned from a much needed family vacation and then headed off to give a plenary address at the Northwest Sanity Forum, a great event. In any case, I wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about something that I've regrettably have had to address in the past, but apparently it rears its ugly head. While I was away in the Seattle area, I listened to the recent conversation between Megyn Kelly and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene has, taken a turn for exhibiting some anti-Israel positions. I haven't been, listening to all of Megyn's shows, but in this case, I wanted to get on the treadmill, loosen up those hurting knees, and so I listened to the entire conversation between Marjorie and Megyn Kelly, and I simply posted a post on social media saying that hey, both my wife and I, separately listened to the conversation, and it's not nearly as you know worthy of all of the Jews that are unhinged that Megyn Kelly is now anti-Jewish and anti-Israel, and she's platforming maniacs like Glenn Greenwald, and she's taking a turn like Tucker Carlson. All I was saying was, uh, you know, it's not a good idea to always, go from 0 to 100 in disassociating with people, accusing them of suddenly exhibiting, you know, anti-Jewish animus or anti-Israel animus. It is perfectly reasonable for American politicians to espouse a position of America first, and in this case, at least as I listened to the chat, Marjorie was saying, "Look, we have a lot of problems in the U.S. We have $37 trillion of debt, and maybe we need to rethink the extent to which we support Israel." Now, from a personal perspective, I can easily argue why it makes perfect sense to continue to support Israel. Not because I'm Jewish, independently of that, there are very valuable, ROI, return on investment, for doing so, continuing to do so. But the reflex of being an America First politician is not one that immediately implies that you are suddenly anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. And I understand that she may have taken other positions that I'm unfamiliar with that might suggest that she's going down a slightly more dark path. But all that I was trying to argue again, that in life, look, I'm all about deontological ethics, and I'm all about there's right and there's wrong. But also life has a lot of gray areas. Life has nuances. When I made some comments that were supportive of Joe Rogan for having, had the gall of inviting all these anti-Israel idiots, tons of Jews wrote to me. Jews who thought that I was the greatest thing since sliced bread the day before. Suddenly I became Himmler because I wasn't disassociating with Joe Rogan. Well, I'm one of the guests that's probably been the most on Joe Rogan. So, and I'm there defending Jewish causes. Would it make sense for the work that I do, that every time somebody espouses a position that I might not be 100% agreement with, to disassociate with that person? Would that serve any pragmatic value? Elon Musk, who's another friend of mine, owns X, and on X I receive more Jew hatred than a day than I think the Nazis espoused in all of their time and power. Should I suddenly say, well, I'm no longer going to be friends, I'm disassociating myself from Musk because he allows this to go on. I'm no longer speaking to Megyn Kelly because she platforms the degenerate wood cricket Jew Glenn Greenwald. That's not how life works, right? So, for example, Donald Trump has to speak to Putin even though he may not agree with Putin. He has to compliment Putin even though he may not agree with him. Now, I'm not suggesting that I say nice things about Megyn Kelly because I'm trying to butter her up. I have enough fame and I have enough influential friends, and she's invited me many times on the show. I don't need to suck up to her. If anybody knows me, I would rather live with dignity for 5 seconds than to live as a coward for 500 years. So no position that I ever take is based on careerist concerns. So imagine when you have millions, well, not millions, hundreds of Jews who the day before write to me saying, "Dear Dr. Saad, you are the hero of the Jewish people." The next day, if I post anything that might be in any way nuanced and supporting Megyn Kelly, I become a piece of shit capo. What does this demonstrate? It demonstrates that Jews are no different in their capacity to be orgiastically unhinged in their tribalism, where they lose all sense of reason, logic, and proportionality. The world is not a gigantic 100% purity loyalty test, right? I can disagree with Megyn Kelly for inviting Glenn Greenwald because I truly think he is an execrable cretin. That doesn't mean that the only way for me to express that sentiment is to then disassociate myself from Megyn Kelly, because she has countless other virtues and qualities. So if every single person with whom we disagree on important matters, our reflex is to then disassociate ourselves from them, then we would be talking to ourselves in the mirror all day. To all those who send me such messages, especially coming from fellow Jews, I hereby excommunicate you from being Jewish. You are now graduates of Oberlin College. Morons. Have a good weekend, everyone.